This project was conceptualized, inspired, and created on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. We say it takes a village to raise a child, so same for the birth of our weaving blanket. I am grateful as ever to all the participants of our weaving project throughout the years. Reflection is an important aspect of weaving. When we make time to reflect, we come to know more about ourselves. What has been woven? What creates connections? We've realized that the things that matter the most are often invisible, namely, a life of care. The true essence of our project is distilled to those rare and memorable moments that are all our efforts of heart. Community can be alive when only people know each other's stories. So here I am. I wish to weave my recounts of memorable moments and deep appreciation to those who make our community a better place with their kindness and generosity. How do we get here? Starting our weaving project would not have been possible without meeting Debra Sparrow. Gail played a unique role in my life as a neighbor, friend, and mentor. We should never underestimate how one act of care can produce an enormous chain of positive events. I met Gail back in 2012. When I was walking in my neighborhood, I heard a car honk from behind. I turned around and saw a white van approach and stop in front of me. A middle-aged woman opened the window and with a big smile said, "Hi, I wanted to say hello to you because I always see you going up and down Denver Street in your wheelchair, rain or shine. I have a painful arthritis in my hands, but every time I saw you out there on the street, I was uplifted." I am not sure what Gail saw in me at that point, but I found in her great personal warmth mixed with deep, compassionate integrity. It takes a particular kind of effort to break out of our comfort zone to reach out to fellow neighbors and jump into any moment connected with our heart.
My grandfather was the one that worked with the settlers here in Vancouver and opened up the roads. The roads were logged by First Nations and the Asian community. And we did a lot to build this area of Kerrisdale, was First Nations. And I think the community center could open it up and integrate also and invite our community in to participate in the programs and activities like you've gone to our Aboriginal Day. Kerrisdale has got carnival days that they have. They could also have more a theme around First Nations because we're so close.
I would really like to thank Keiko for asking me to come back to a place that's very, very important to me, Kerrisdale Community Center. Because this center was home to us as children when we were little like you.
We started the grassroots programming of creative weaving with Musqueam weaver Debra Sparrow. Looking back, we now understood that we were planting the seed of sharing who we are and helping others make their way. With the warm presence of Debra, weaving brought all of us closer, young and younger heart. The year 2015 was something to remember.
For this one, see? Open it up, see? And then magically, I'm going to overlap them, see?
And then
I'm going to spin it together.
Yeah.
See that?
Okay, so
See?
And now?
You see, she's got that on there, and that's what you could have done instead of tattoos too. Butterfly, like this butterfly.
Right, yeah, I got henna today because the camp was India Day. It seems to be getting a little short.
I'll add it for you.
Thank you.
Up you go.
In 2016, our creative weaving project found a home in Denver Community Center, where we connected with many local weavers from the neighborhood and elsewhere in the city. Much like plants needing sun, water, and good soil to make their own food energy, key ingredients of our growth are attributed to the role that our weaving mentors played.
In Japan, we need to make it really inclusive of our communities.
My traditional name is Salehwawit. I don't use it often because it's sometimes difficult for people to say. I began weaving some 30 years ago. Did not know where it was going to take me. I merely feel like I accommodate now where it wants to go, and I sort of follow because that's the honor of the whole process as far as I'm concerned, is paying attention to something even more than just what we see. So if you look around behind me even, or around your neighborhood, and you see what we called our show the fabric of life, and the fibers as well. So it's like we're all connected. It sounds a bit romantic, and it is, and that's why I love it, because it takes me to a place that we don't live anymore, a place we long to still be sometimes, and we can go back there when we're working and when we're standing in front of our looms. No matter who we are, we want to feel like we belong and that we're rooted. And doing this work connects us to our history and to who we are as people. And we can share that, and that's what this project's done. It's brought us all together. And our goal was and is that we get to know our community as well, not just in the village, but outside. Like, I grew up in Kerrisdale. I swam in the pool every day in the summer. I played in Dunbar, at the field there. But do we still know people? So this gives us an opportunity to get to know the women and the men. I must say there's more women right now, but because what I've come to understand about weaving is that it's integrated not only on the piece, but in life, that all cultures are weavers. And I find that really interesting, because I'm at the museum right now working on a blanket, and people seem to think that it's just yours. And then I say, well, we all come from a weaving community, and they're like, we do? And I'm like, every culture, if we look back in time, every culture, whether you're from Japan, Africa, I've met people yesterday from Iceland who are weavers. Now that's pretty removed, and yet we find our way of making clothes, and that's what we had to do, and we forget about it. Now we just run to the store and buy whatever we need, well before we were making it. And so this brings back a mindset, it brings back an interconnection to all of us, lays the groundwork again to say, wow, using our hands in a way that was meant to be, and reconnecting us with who we are. I have great faith and hope that if we reintroduce the values of what this work represents to all humanity, not just us as Musqueam people, but all people, that we can find balance. Because that's what we're looking for in this world today. We're looking for balance, and it's a big job. We have done a lot of destroying, we've done a lot of damage, but I think we can come together on the masterpiece. I like to call it the masterpiece, and we have a place there, all of us in the human race have a place on that masterpiece, and it's how we reestablish our way in it is to how it'll turn out. So I have great faith it will.
We can make it big and loose. Pardon?
Friendship blanket.
Yes, a friendship multicultural blanket, interweaving all of us together on the masterpiece.
I started weaving when I was in my mid-20s, just sort of kind of accidentally, and I just fell in love with the texture and the colors, and being able to take a bunch of yarn that's sort of nothing really and make it into something that's functional or beautiful. I weave a lot of clothing, and being able to wear something that I took from a yarn just and conceptualized in my head and make it into something that I can wear, and that's quite completely unique, that no one else will have something like that. And the whole world is just, I love doing that. I can't even express how much that feeds my soul to be able to do that. So one of the other things that I would like to touch on, because this is really important for me, is how weaving is really a metaphor for the community. And I talked about it in the written piece, where, you know, each weaver weaves their own way, but those individual threads combine to make something that is bigger and better than what they were when they started, right? You know, the threads don't have any structural integrity. They are just loose and tangled, right? But when you intertwine them, it becomes an object, something that you can use or something that you can look at. It has beauty. It has more value. So that's how I see a community, when we're all sort of individuals kind of milling about, not doing any, you know, not having any context. But when we come together and start pooling our resources, we can build something that's bigger than any one of us can do alone. So I think that that's a really important part of weaving to me, to, you know, have people understand that that's what weaving's about. The other thing I want to touch on, which we don't talk about here a lot, which I think is great, for many people, weaving is about lots of teeny little threads and detail and precision and following the rules and established patterns. It can be that, and if that's what you love, I think that's excellent, but it doesn't have to be. You can be really free to express yourself, and we don't all have to do things the same way, because we're not machines, and we don't have to try to do things the way a machine would do it. We can do things the way a human can do it.
Weaving often takes us to a different place or time and allows us to create memories, relationships, and discover new things about ourselves. Life is constantly evolving.
The first time I ever went for a weaving workshop, I was quite shocked at the sense of community that I could see in the members of the workshop. I had never seen anything like that, especially in Vancouver, where I've grown up and spent most of my life. I think that weaving itself brings out that sense of community, because as you weave, it tends to let your subconscious mind take over, and it tends to break down the boundaries that one would normally have with members of the community who you might not know as well.
And for me, weaving is primarily a subconscious activity, which lets my conscious mind sort of wander all over the place. And I just had really a lot of fun with it. And I could let go of all the stresses of school and life and just let my hands take over. So although it's not something I would have chosen to do initially, I'm very grateful that my mom made me do it, because I really like it now.
This piece, do we need to do more in the middle or here?
I would maybe do in the middle. Like it probably just
Should be around here.
Here, let me see if I can do it. Hold on, I'll do it. Okay, how about I do it? So about here?
Let's see, a bit further, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
For now, anyway.
If you can push it through, yeah, thank you.
The bottom we can actually.
While each individual piece varies greatly in shape and size, just like all of us unique beings, they come together to form a colorful rectangle whole, allowing us to find a balance between them and the differences they bear.
When most people go through life thinking that the most important thing is to get an education and become wealthy and have a good car and the best of everything, you can have all you want and all the money you want, but there's something else that still longs for something. And what is that something? It's to know who you are and where you come from. And that's what my grandfather left with me. He said, know who you are, know where you come from, because if you don't know that, then you feel like nothing. And when you feel like nothing, everything seems negative, you know, and when you do put that all in place, everything's positive. Everything's good. And everything you know you can handle. And you don't need to go to a psychologist because it's standing right in front of you in your room. That's where art therapy is. And that's what I think it does for all of us. All of us who came together to work together and become friends. And we can walk up in Dunbar and we can see one of our friends now and say, well, I know who that is. It's not just a person walking by. And that's all anybody really wants. That's part of what makes us the same as well as different.